Namaste. Today's topic is about food. How food is connected with spiritual awakening or a Kundalini awakening process. Depending upon the culture we come from, the region, the climate, the food culture at home, we form opinions surrounding food. We have certain judgments, beliefs attached to food, likes, dislikes, kind of emotional attachment to food, or the ideas surrounding food. So, food has a major role to play in our life. And even during a spiritual awakening, these ideas or food habits can change when the process is unfolding in the person's body. Generally, a person's food habits may not change in their lifetime, but when somebody is undergoing a Kundalini awakening, there's a drastic change in the way they think of food, the ideas they hold about food, and how they consume food. One man's food can be another man's nightmare. Some foods are feared, some are despised, some are loved across all cultures. We might look down upon some type of foods and we might think some foods are great. So let's look through the ideas, the opinions we form around food and how they affect us vibrationally. Food is energy. It is just the life force or Shakti in different forms. In some types of foods, the life force is higher, and in some types of foods, the life force is lesser. That is, the vibration level of that food is lesser. So, the denser the food, the lesser the vibrational level of that food. The lighter the food, the more the vibrational quality in that food. In a person who's living a normal life, the cellular regeneration in his body, it happens over certain frames of time, depending on which part of the body is getting regenerated. For example, the cells in our skin, they regenerate every few weeks. Our cells in the bones, they regenerate once in 15 years. Some cells don't regenerate at all. That is, the cells that are associated with the spinal cord and few of the brain centers, they do not regenerate. Typically, in a person's body, that is, a person who's not undergoing a spiritual awakening, there is a constant cellular regeneration happening at various levels and at different time frames. If you have to understand the concept of cellular regeneration more clearly, then you look in reptiles, you will see that the snake, it leaves or sheds away its skin. Even the lizard, when the tail comes off, it is able to regenerate its tail. We cannot do it at their level, but yes, we still do it internally. Our body keeps regenerating cells, creating fresh cells, and the old cells are removed away from the system. That way, we are regenerating ourselves. But in a spiritual awakening process, this cellular regeneration increases because the person's vibration level in one lifetime is increasing. When a person is born, the body that is formed at the time of birth, it is made to carry a certain level of vibrational frequency, and that depends upon your past life, the karmic baggage you have, how much your personality has developed over many lifetimes. All these put together, they create a body for you so that it will vibrate at a particular level. Vibration, or it is called as spanda in Hindi. And the person's body is designed to work at that level of vibration. When a person gets spiritually awakened, he develops interest in spirituality. What he is doing is now he's suddenly changing the vibrational level of his body. But his body was not designed for it. Its level of workings were designed to be working at a lower level. So, a sudden influx of spiritual energy into the body, The body has to cope with this sudden change. As I said earlier, it was not designed to carry extra load or extra vibrational frequency. The body is denser when it is lower in vibration. And dropping away the density itself is a big thing. Now the body's vibration level has to change. So instantly inside the body, a lot of changes are happening at the cellular level, the hormonal level, the neurotransmitters, the mitochondria in the body, the electromagnetic field of the body, everything, organ functioning, everything is getting affected. Brain is getting affected, the spinal cord is getting affected. The pranic movements in the body are also getting affected. So, generally, what happens in a spiritual awakening is that the body, because of sudden influx of spiritual energy, it goes into a state of shock. And after shock comes the death of a lot of cells in the body. Then, after the death of a lot of cells in the body, during this phase, the person might feel very tired. There is a need to take a lot of rest, drink a lot of water. Maybe a few of them may want to sleep, or maybe a few days, or they just cut down their work and they just relax for a few days. After 3 or 4 days, the body again starts regenerating new cells. And now this person's body will operate at the next level of vibration. So these kinds of cycles where the body feels that sudden influx of spiritual energy, it goes into a little state of shock. That is when people develop flu or fever, body pains. They might feel a little out of place or out of sync, a little dizzy. There are many symptoms attached to this. Then they might suddenly feel sick for a few days. Then again, there is this a lot of inner cleansing is happening in the body. And a few days later, they are again very active and they feel renewed, regenerated. That is when the body starts functioning at the next higher vibration level. These states of shock, which is associated with influx of energy, spiritual energy into the body, then you will experience a state of something like an inner death, then regeneration, and then you can integrate this experience at the next higher level. When this happens in a person's body, they feel changed. They are no longer the same old person they were. They're a new version of themselves. They feel rebirthed. They feel that they cannot fit into their old patterns. They cannot fit into that old mold which was them few years ago, or which was them even last week ago. In a Kundalini awakening process, these various stages where the vibration level changes, it happens at a very higher level, or you can say it happens at a very intense level. There's a sudden influx of spiritual energy. That is when Kundalini is moving down, up, or when more pranic flow is happening in the body. This sudden change of flow in the pranic energy, or when the pranic energy starts flowing into newer areas, or when Kundalini starts piercing the knots in the spine, or when the chakras are opening up, or when Kundalini is moving through various chakras, the chakras are functioning at a higher level, more energy is flowing through the system. There are certain phases in the Kundalini awakening process where the sudden flow of pranic energy into newer areas in the body, and that too the flow is large quantity of flow. This creates a shock to the system, and this can be felt literally like a death. During this phase that can last from few weeks to few months, the person may have to take a lot of rest. They may have to cut down on their work. They will not have energy to do their daily chores or to go out into the external world and work. So they have to cut down on all those things, and they have to stay back, take adequate rest, replenish the body with water and good diet. During this phase where the body is recovering from the shock that comes as effect of the sudden change in vibration, lot of inner changes are happening in the body. As I said earlier, the cellular regeneration is happening at a very drastic level. What changes a person should undergo over many lifetimes? Say if the vibration level of a person is changing slightly in every lifetime, then this phases, they are moved through very quickly. Maybe the entire thing will, the death, the resurrection, the integration, it will happen at a faster pace. But when the sudden influx of energy, especially in a Kundalini awakening process, the person's spiritual energy is getting enhanced in one lifetime, and the body's vibration is totally changing drastically, that too, and the change is happening at a very fast pace, and the physical body or the emotional body is not ready for this kind of a change, so they go into a state of shock. During this phase the person will feel have a flu, they will have fever, a lot of body pains, they'll feel brain fog, memory loss. They may need plenty of prolonged rest. They need to be in an ideal setting where nobody will, emotionally trigger them. Because during this phase, they are even emotionally unloading a lot of their past pain, past trauma, a lot. They're looking within themselves and they're trying to understand how their ego is playing them. They even understand that. So all this means that they need a lot of seclusion too during this phase. After this phase, which feels like a death, the ego also changes. Where the ego felt very solid, structured, with at the beginning of the spiritual process or at the beginning of the Kundalini awakening process, now the ego suddenly it is torn apart. By the time the resurrection phase comes, where the person's body is generating a lot of new cells, the person feels renewed, he feels resurrected, he feels is vibrating at a next level, because at this level the person's body vibrational level changes. He can experience higher vibration in his body, he can feel lot of pulsations in his hands, he can feel lot of pulsating energy moving through his spine. In the chakras too, he will feel this. And in general, he will feel like the cells in his body are vibrating back and forth. There's a lot of energy, pranic energy in the body, which was not there earlier before the spiritual shock that came into the system. This resurrection phase, the person needs to take certain supplements so that he is able to help the body to resurrect, to rebuild. Finally, this person starts operating at the next higher level. That is, the body has integrated this new level of the vibrational frequency, and now this person is operating from that level of frequency. So, these cycles of awakening also happen in a Kundalini process, but the difference is they happen at a much higher level. So each of this phase may be experienced for from few weeks to few months, and the level of vibrational change is much higher when compared to that which happens at a spiritual awakening level. After the integration of the higher vibrational frequency happens, and now the body is working from a higher level, it does not stop here. This is a cyclical process. So again, the person will have a influx of spiritual energy, and again he will go through all these stages. And each time this cycle repeats, the person is pushed up into the next higher vibrational level. And some of these cycles where the spirit is taking charge of the body, or the pranic movements are felt very strongly, the lot of energy is moving up from the tailbone up the spine into the head, lot of brain centers are opening. The more the process unfolds, the more these cycles are gone through by the person in a Kundalini awakening process, the intensity of the awakening is still very profound. Even after you go through these cycles 3 or 4 times, you will still find it difficult every time it happens to you. In a top down awakening, what is a top down awakening and how it is different from a Kundalini awakening process? I've made a video on this. You please check out the playlist. The video is available there. If you watch it, you will understand what a top down awakening is. So, in a top down awakening, too, the descent of grace, it brings in extra spiritual energy into the person's field. The person's body was operating at a low vibrational level. Now, the sudden influx of grace into the person's field, though it is not painful, it can still feel like a sudden shock to the person, because now the person will have to start working through his emotional body. They have to give away a lot of ideas. So this change is happening internally. Though in many cases it is not felt very painful physically, but at the mental and emotional level, the person is still undergoing a lot of change in a top-down awakening. So a kind of the breaking of the older thought patterns, the older belief patterns at the physical level too. A lot of changes are happening in the person's body, and they too have these symptoms that are associated with the process. Flu, body pains is a common during the phase where they have to take rest. Then they feel a lot of changes to the ego, and then they feel regenerated, they feel different, and later they are integrating these higher vibrational frequencies into their body. Accordingly, their vibration level also changes. It changes them totally. The difference between a Kundalini awakening process and a top-down awakening process is where the more the grace descends on the person, the more they go through these cycles of the descent, the death, the resurrection, and the integration. These cycles get easier, they get faster. But in a Kundalini awakening process, that is when the Kundalini is moving from the base of the spine and it is going up, these cycles of awakening are still difficult to manage. Even when you are coming into the advanced processes, for example, say Kundalini has pierced through the Rudra Grandhi here, or you have the Itaralinga here. It has pierced through it and gone into the head. Even there, what is happening is that because the knot has opened, a lot of pranic flow is going directly into the brain. This again feels like a shock to the system. I took many months to recover from it. After this, there is something like a ego death, or rather, here the ego death is not experienced as samadhi, because in top down awakening, generally the ego death is experienced something like a samadhi. But in the Kundalini awakening process, the samadhi happens at the last stage, at the pinnacle of the process. Here, ego death that happens at various levels of the Kundalini awakening process is more like your ego is taking the back seat. The spirit is now taking decisions on your life. Uh, your intuition is working more, and you seldom uh, get into the skin of your ego. You can see through the drama ego plays. You understand your ego better, how it is playing you around, how you get caught up in various karmic loops because of the ego's activities. You understand how the mind affects you. So, all these kinds of understandings happen at this stage where, especially when I was in bed, and then during this phase, I was thinking, I was trying to understand how my ego controlled me, how it was putting me through loops, the kinds of situation of people I were attracting into my life. So it is more of a stage where you are having a lot of life lessons. And then comes the regeneration, the resurrection. And then my body was, it was vibrating at a very high state. When I compared to how it was before the knot was not open, that is the Rudra Grandhi or the knot of Rudra. And then when I compare myself to what happened after the knot opened, there's a sea change in my vibrational level. So the same cycles are experienced in a Kundalini awakening process, but their awakening is very intense. Each of this phase may take many weeks to many months. And once that phase finishes and you are integrating or operating from the next higher vibrational level, then again, Kundalini, which is rising up, will open some other knot or some other grandhi, or it may go into other areas of the brain, which may again feel like sudden, shock because your body has not experienced that earlier. But the last death that happens in a Kundalini awakening process is a physical death. That is when the Kundalini moves out of the Brahmarandra here, it goes and merges with the Bindu, which is there on top of the head. When it merges into the Bindu, it feels like physical death. Your body stops breathing. So you experience that death. But the thing is that you're still alive. So you have to give into that experience. You have to embrace death. You have to allow death, the physical death, to happen. And then the resurrection again happens. And now the person is uh, working from a very high level. He is a realized saint or a realized being. And the more he experiences this phase, that is, the more he spends his time in states of samadhi, the more advanced his uh, processes, the more he can integrate the universal energy into his consciousness. Food can bring in bad karma too. When we earn money the wrong way, then there is a lot of negative karma attached to the food we eat. When we partake in a meal where the person, the host, has earned money the wrong way, you are taking part of his karma. Even if you are not aware that this man has earned money the wrong way, you will still get some karma. But when you are aware, then you are more uh, in tune with your host's energy, so you will attract more karma. One way to not get attached to such type of karma is when you're invited to lunch, just take an gift, carry some other small gift for your host. There is an equal exchange of energy happening there. In that way, you will not get bound by karma. It is always good to pray before a meal or offer the meal to your deity. That way, the greed attached with consumption of food will come down. You should not see yourself as the enjoyer of the food. Rather, you should pass on the enjoyment to a higher power or a deity. That way, you will not get attached to the food you eat. And this type of food, even if it is lower in vibration, can turn into a higher vibration in your body. What type of food should be consumed? Food that is cooked fresh and which is not kept beyond a few hours, say beyond 6 to 7 hours. The quicker you eat it, the more the pranic force in it. Avoid foods which are frozen, which are ready-made foods, foods with preservatives, with lot of unnecessary artificial sweeteners, or food with certain types of colors. Food is not just the physical substance we consume. There are a lot of ideas and opinions we hold about food. These Ideas and opinions which we hold about food, or the connected emotions that we hold about food, have a major impact on us when we are undergoing the spiritual awakening. Not just when we are undergoing the spiritual awakening, but even in the normal life, when we eat food with greed, we overconsume, it has a negative impact on our body. Or when we eat food when we feel guilty, depressed, when we are angry, this has a negative effect on our body. People count calories, they eat food in fear, that too impacts the body. People eat wrong foods, wrong types of foods, that too impacts the body. In a spiritual awakening process, your physical body is the instrument through which you will move into higher levels of consciousness. So this physical body should be taken very good care of. The right type of food should go into your body. There is a link between your vibrational level and the type of food you will like to eat. Generally, some foods fall away from our life when we move into a higher vibrational level. So there is no need to make forced changes to your diet, because depending on your vibrational level, depending upon what your body needs, what it craves, you will automatically make those food choices. Food can be classified into three types, that is sattvic food, rajasic food, and tamasic food. Sattvic food is food which is light, which is something like milk, vegetables, lentils, whole grains, typically vegetarian food which is cooked well, and this is consumed within a time frame so that the pranic force is high in it. Sattvic food is a food which does not give you any bad karma. That is, when you earn money the right way and you eat the right food, it does good to the vibration level of your body. The Rajasic food. Rajasic food are foods which are deep fried in oil, which feel good to your tongue. Your tongue craves for those foods, spicy foods. They increase uh, the passion in a person, in the sense the person is now more worldly focused than internally focused. Food helps you to focus inwardly more than the external world. Then comes the tamasic food. So from sattvic food, then comes rajasic food, then comes tamasic food. When we come down to the tamasic food, it is lower in vibrational, it is denser, it is meat. These are the foods that increase ignorance in a person. They make him sleepy after they eat that food. A person feels sleepy, lazy after eating those types of foods. He gets addicted to those foods. Many different types of foods which are addictive in nature: alcohol, drugs, then foods which are junk in nature, they all come into the tamasic category. These foods, they keep the person more in the lower state of vibration. They do not allow or facilitate the increase of body vibration. Again, these sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic foods are just levels of vibrations. There are few yogis, Agori Babas, who consume basically tamasic food, that is the denser food, low vibrational food. But they are able to transmute this lower vibrational food into higher vibrational energy. They are capable of doing it through some rituals, inner body workings, they are able to do it. If I have to give you an example as to how this is, some people get easily affected by emotions. That is, they feel very joyous and they can feel very angry. For them to shift from the angry mood to the joyful mood, it does not happen quickly. It takes some time to come out of the anger and then move into the joyous mood. But they can again go back into the angry mood. Say, for example, this person is enough evolved to use the anger as a stepping stone towards increasing body vibration. That is, You will use your negative emotions. You will transmute those negative emotions into positive emotions. Your body, your inner emotional body works like a transmuter where it can use your past trauma, your past pain, your shortcomings, your resentments, everything. They get converted to a higher level of joy, bliss, and peace. Some people are capable of doing it. So, in the same way, these lower vibrational foods can be transmuted into of higher vibrational quality by certain types of yogis. Not it is not or it cannot be done by everybody. They are capable of doing it. Generally, certain schools of thoughts or certain lineages suggest that the aspirants should be eating vegetarian food alone, and that to sattvic food, because it will support the vibrational level increase. Sattvic food like whole grains, you can eat various lentils. Cooked vegetables are always preferable. Fruits, lot of greens, spirulina. For the liver detoxification and to support liver strength, you can have milk thistle, dandelion tea. To support your intestinal gut, you can have the grape seed extract powder because it will help you in reconstructing the gut lining, especially when in a spiritual awakening process, there are certain stages where we experience shock in the awakening process. There, the stomach lining may get a little disturbed, and because of which we can develop something called the irritable bowel syndrome, or certain digestive issues might crop up. For that reason, if you eat uh, grape seeds extract powder, or if you can eat just the black grapes along with the seeds, or grapes along with seeds, it will help you to keep the stomach and the gut lining. It will help in building that lining. Milk, especially A2 milk. A2 milk comes from the old country cows, and these are like the Gir cow or the Indian cow. The cows are fed organic grass and they are not induced with any hormones, and such type of milk is called E2 milk, not the Jersey cows or the buffalo milk. So typically A2 milk is very nutritious, and especially if you are undergoing Kundalini awakening process, this is the food to go to. For me, this one glass of milk every day in the form of milk or in the form of curd or yogurt is what kept me strong through my process. Especially probiotics are very useful. If you can have yogurt daily, that is a very good probiotic. Spirulina is good. I've taken ashwagandha. I drink ginger tea on a daily basis. I make sure I use all Indian spices in my cooking, like cumin, mustard seeds, the coriander seeds. These all have a lot of essential chemical compounds in them. These spices will help your process. Certain types of leafy herbs like thyme, you can have basil, spirulina, spinach, different types of herbs. Sunlight will benefit the person a lot. Doing Surya Namaskaras in sunlight early morning is good. Vitamin D, especially the phases where your body goes through shock, it is good to have vitamin C. The body, to recover from shock, it needs a lot of magnesium. Magnesium in the form of Epsom salts or in the form of magnesium oil. Zinc supplements are good. All these give the body enough strength to cope with these drastic inner changes that an awakening can bring upon a person. Now comes the question, should I eat vegetables or be a vegetarian alone, or can I consume meat too? When I use the word vegetarian here, it simply means that you will eat dairy products and plant based products are that makes a person a vegetarian. I do not suggest being a vegan, but yes, vegetarian is a better option. Not that you cannot be a non-vegetarian. As I said earlier, all food is just that Shakti. Ultimately, your body will decide what it wants to eat. Sometimes you can turn into a vegetarian, and maybe at some point, your body might crave meat. You may give in to that craving and you may indulge in it. Maybe for few weeks. Later on, you might again become a vegetarian. Your body will guide you to what to eat and what not to eat. The person here just has to stay away from getting greedy about food. So when we are eating food, we should not eat food with greed, with that neediness, or we should not eat food when we are in a very bad emotional state, when we are in pain, in anger, we are disturbed mentally. When we should not binge eat. Unnecessary indulgence in sweets is also not good, because especially those who are undergoing a top down awakening, they have to be careful during a spiritual awakening process. The chances, because a lot of activity happening in your body, and the liver is also already, there's too much pressure on it. The pancreas, the liver, the organs, they're already under pressure because they have to work extra. On top of it, when we eat plenty of sugar, then the need to process the sugar becomes an extra burden on the body. So if you can cut down on your sugar intake during a top down awakening, it is good. The difference between top down awakening and a Kundalini awakening process is, in the top down awakening, if you have something like sugar or if you are diabetic, then it is difficult to manage the process, because the internal structures, as I said, they are collapsing, and in that place, new structures are formed in your body. When somebody is diabetic, this process gets difficult or it gets impaired. It does not move properly. The person will not be able to move to a level where he can take in that new level of consciousness just because he has diabetes. So your body has to be able to support the process. But when somebody is having a Kundalini awakening, that is when the energy is moving down up through the spine, through various chakras. The advantage this person has is, once Kundalini reaches this point called Makara, that is the upper Agya chakra, there the Kundalini resides here. Where the Kundalini resides in the body, the person's consciousness operates from that level. So here, the consciousness is rising in the person from the base of the spine to this area, and it will go beyond up. In this type of a Kundalini process, at this point, Kundalini sits there and she repairs the body. That is, the physical container is repaired, the subtle body is repaired, it is made fit. So, if the person has any type of ailments in the body because of the process, when Kundalini reaches this area, she sits there, it repairs the body. It is only when she repairs the body, she moves up. So somebody with a down up awakening has the advantage that his ailments will get cured when Kundalini reaches the upper Agya chakra. But in a top down awakening, that advantage is not there. So they have to be more careful with sugar. Even with people who are undergoing a Kundalini awakening much later in life, they still should not tax their body with too much sugar. Sugar in the form of jaggery is better than the white sugar. In fact, in ancient Indian texts, when Kundalini is moving up, there is this intense heat in the body. To keep that heat down, they tell people to eat jaggery sweetened rice. This jaggery sweetened rice, and there is a dal or a lentil called moong dal that also helps keep the body heat less. So when the person is experiencing a lot of heat in the body, which comes because of the nervous activity, the body is becoming hot because of mitochondrial activity, it is good to consume such food. How does a person choose what to eat? This largely is dependent on how you feel after eating the food. Do you feel active? Do you feel happy? Do you feel satiated? Or are you feeling down? Are you feeling heavy? Are you feeling a little out of sync? Are you feeling a lot of negative emotions? Are you feeling guilty? If you feel those kinds of negative things, then you know that you have to avoid these types of foods in the future. During the Kundalini phase where it is moving down up, especially when it is moving through the lower three chakras, there can be a huge need or huge craving for sugar. I ate immense sugar for 6 months. I had no idea why I was eating so many sweets in a day, nearly half kilo sweets a day. My body would not listen to me. I had to eat. Later on, I was more into eating protein. I wanted more protein in the form of lentils. I would eat peanut butter. I'm a vegetarian, and all my life I've been a vegetarian. So my food choices are all vegetarian. The protein also, the need for protein also spikes up. In one phase, I was consuming a lot of cheese, lot of peanut butter. I wanted to eat cream, plenty of cream, milk is what I craved. So your cravings will come and go, but once you move into the higher chakras, the hunger also comes down. The lower chakras, at least I felt very hungry. Higher chakras, the hunger comes down. Fasting part, as far as I know, somebody who's undergoing a down up awakening cannot fast much. I cannot fast. When I fast, I suffer a lot. I spoken to few others. Few can fast for a day or half day, but they cannot fast for lengthy periods. And if you are undergoing a down up Kundalini awakening process in your body, I suggest that please do not fast. Eat the right way, but because when the Kundalini is moving down up, it needs huge amount of energy. In fact, the food that you eat cannot support the process. In fact, the food which you eat here, it will not support your process. You will need extra food which is outwardly. When somebody has a top down awakening, they are capable of fasting. Or somebody who is having a slow spiritual awakening in their body, for them fasting is recommended, it is very good. But if you are having a very fast paced Kundalini awakening process that is especially happening in one lifetime in your body, I would suggest not to fast. Eat appropriate amount of food, and whenever you're hungry, eat something so that that hunger, because your body needs food. A lot of changes are happening internally, and it may not be advisable to fast. As you evolve spiritually, your intuition gets stronger. You can intuitively choose what to eat and what not to eat. Sometimes your body tells you what to eat. You will receive certain messages from your body when you are intuitively open. Sometimes in state of dream, you will receive certain dreams guiding you on what to eat and what not to eat. When we choose food out of fear, out of greed, out of the need to curb our pain, addictions, then the choice is more an ego-based choice. And this type of eating is not good for you at the physical level and even at the emotional level. But during a spiritual awakening, you will have cravings. You have to understand the difference between the ego-based eating and then a craving that comes from inside. When you're craving for something, it is not an ego-based choice. You will go against your ego and eat it. For example, when I was feeling this excessive craze for eating sweet, I knew that sweets were not good when taken or consumed in a large amount. But then my body was asking for it. It was not a choice that my mind made. It was more of the body telling me to eat it. Later on, I got to understand that When Kundalini is rising up the central spine, there is a huge need for sugar or sweets because Kundalini needs that excessive energy for its work when it is moving up the spine during this phase. So it was not an ego choice. It was more of a compulsion that the body was telling me to eat. It was a command from the body or from maybe the higher power. So yeah, you must be able to understand the fine difference between what is an ego-based food choice, what is an intuitive food choice, and what is a craving. Craving which comes from the ego should not be satiated. And many a times in the process, especially when you're having a top-down awakening, people think that thirst is hunger. That is, if you don't drink water for a long period of time, it may manifest as hunger in your body, but it is not actually hunger for food. It is the body is thirsty and it is asking for water, but that is experienced as food because sometimes uh, the kind of messages which we receive from the body during the spiritual awakening process can be a little different from what a normal individual would experience. So you should know how to correctly interpret messages that come from the body. You should be able to interpret your dreams correctly, use your intuition correct. So here you are supposed to be more in touch with your body requirements, with your cravings, with the messages that come to you. That way you'll be wiser at choosing the food you will eat. Now I'll discuss the mystical experiences that are connected with food in a top-down awakening or in a Kundalini awakening. Other types of spiritual awakenings, you may not have mystical experiences connected with food, but once you're having a top-down awakening or a Kundalini awakening, that is a bottom-up awakening, the food alone will not be enough to help the body to cope with this kind of a change. Nothing, I feel, nothing in the physical dimension is enough to totally support the body in terms of food. That is why when somebody has a top down awakening or a Kundalini awakening, they have these mystical experiences where they experience in their dream time that they're being taken to a different world by certain beings who want to help them. They are injected with certain types of water or certain types of liquids into their body. They're asked to eat certain types of foods. They're given bath in different types of liquids, different colors. All this is meant to heal the body because during a spiritual transformation, which is intense and which is happening over a short period of time, the body needs to cope. It is under severe stress, and they are beings who watch over us and who are ready to help us. In my experience, I was injected with a lot of liquid into my left hand, and that liquid was injected to me so that I could cope with the pain I was undergoing in my down up Kundalini process. Apart from that, I was experiencing visitation from aliens, or you can call them divine beings. They were coming to me at least twice or thrice in a month. I could feel their presence in my room, about two or three of them. I could feel their hands moving over my back. They would see how the nadis are in my body. They would press my back. They would press various parts of my body to see how the energy was flowing. They would clear away some blocks. And this happened when my lower three chakras were getting opened up. I did not fear those beings because I understood that they came there to help me. Apart from that, in my dream time, I was taken to astral worlds, and there I was offered food, and they knew I was a vegetarian, so they offered me the vegetarian options. A huge bunch of flowers with long stalks were put into my hands, and I was asked to consume the entire flower along with the stalk. Apart from that, I saw huge flower in my dream filled with lot of liquid. It could be the nectar or the flower. Was asked to drink the nectar and eat away the big flower. The flowers which I saw in my dream were very beautiful, and I don't think there's any copy of that in the physical dimension. They look totally different from the earth flowers. Now, coming to the point whether we need to eat non-veg food or is vegetarian food good enough? As I said earlier, I'm a total vegetarian and I've been through some very difficult, rough phases in my Kundalini awakening process. And my vegetarian diet, it supported me good. It kept me healthy. It kept me strong during my process. Given the point that my awakening is very intense, it is happening in one lifetime, and the amount of pranic force that is flowing in my body is very, very strong. I've experienced near death many times. I've gone into the mouth of death and come out. I've experienced major shocks happening to me when the granthis were opening. If you're having A2 milk, you're eating the right type of vegetarian food, then vegetarian food is good enough for you to endure this process. There are certain ideas attached with eating vegetarian food. It is considered superior to than eating non-vegetarian food. So this gives the person a false sense of superiority over somebody who eats meat. They somehow feel that they are superior, they are right. So there are certain ideas, as I said earlier, associated with food. The most common idea or the common judgment that people make is that vegetarian food, when you eat it, you're superior to somebody who's eating meat. And so a lot of guilt is even attached with eating meat. We have to understand one thing, every food we consume is prana. It is just prana in different levels. What one eats depends on where that person is in the evolution process and what that person is used to eating and the kind of effect the food has on that person at the level of the mind and body. If we give up eating non-vegetarian food, it does not make us any superior than the person who's consuming meat. If we are thinking on those lines, then what happens is we are creating a false sense of superiority. And this false sense of superiority will again bring down your vibrational level. So when you are talking about food, you have to even understand what types of judgments do you have about food. Do not judge somebody by what they eat. Do not despise food because ultimately food is just the energy of Shakti. Do not complain about food unnecessarily. Do not waste food. Respect it. So all these things also become a part of how you approach food, your ideas about food. We are not very aware, but many of our emotions are tied up with food. Arrogance, guilt, the greed, resentment, the kind of disgust some foods may stir within us. All these things, the various emotions with regard to food is understandable, and it is largely dependent on how we have been brought up and the kind of ideas that were put into our mind and our habits. They all play a very big role in deciding what we like and what we dislike about food. You can continue to eat what you like, but question your dysfunctional ideas about food, your dysfunctional beliefs about food. These play a major role in guiding you in the process. You realize that at a point, everything is just Shakti, it is just consciousness in the form of plants or in the form of animals. Just use your inner intuition, your inner guidance, and do what is right for your body. Once we question our ideas about food, our habits, our judgments, once we question the decisions we make on our food choices, we are more wiser in understanding the impact food has over us at the emotional level, the mental level, and the physical level. Unnecessary ideas about food can create different emotions like a kind of the need to be special, spiritual arrogance, the arrogance of being right, the arrogance of being just, and on the other hand, it can swing into feeling shame, feeling guilt, feeling greed. So food has these kinds of effect on us. So it is very important to take a balanced approach about food. Any idea about food, any habit about food, seek a balanced ground so that you don't sway to either of the two extremes. That way, you will have the right attitude towards food. You will thank God for the food that He's providing to you, and you understand the importance that the food plays in your spiritual evolution. Your food choices will vary during your spiritual journey. It depends on which stage you are in right now. When somebody experiences a sudden increase in pranic flow in the body, or descent of grace, or when there's energy that is moving up the spine is has become stronger, or it has opened certain chakras, certain granthis are pierced, more prana is flowing to the body. So there's a sudden influx of extra prana into the body, and the body is not used to this prana. This causes a shock to the system. How intense this change will be in a person, or how intensely you will feel the shock, it will be dependent on how much of energy is flowing to that person's body. During the stage of shock, it is better to fast, eat less. In my case, because my Kundalini awakening is very intense, during this state of shock, I would not eat for days. And I don't call this fasting because it was not a choice. My body refused to eat. For the first 5 to 6 days, I would hardly eat 1 or 2 spoons rice in the morning and in the evening. Later on, for the next 2 months, I could hardly consume half cup of milk in the morning, half cup of milk in the evening, along with a bowl of rice and some lentils. It was only after 2 months that I could start eating. This second stage for me lasted very long, especially when my granthis were getting pierced and when my Brahmarandra, which was this area, got pierced. When the Brahmarandra gets pierced, it's the biggest shock to the body. After this phase, you will see that there is a death. When I say death, what I mean here is that there is a death of the ego. A part of your ego crumbles. You start questioning your behaviors, your ideas, your beliefs, and part of it is seen that is contributing to your false self. So that part, it starts falling away from your life. When you come out of this stage, next comes the resurrection. That is where your body is transmuting a lot of the lower energies into higher energies. You are recoping, you are regaining energy, you are feeling good about yourself, you feel bright, you feel happy, uh, you feel a lot of weight has been shed, in the sense that a lot of grossness that you carried earlier has left your body. You feel lighter in spirit, and this change becomes more incorporated within you when it becomes a total behavioral shift. That is what happens at the integration stage. And now your mind and body are functioning from a higher vibrational level. So, how much time it will take you to go through all these phases in a spiritual evolution process depends on the type of spiritual evolution you're having and how intense it is. This is cyclical in nature. That is, after you've integrated the new vibrational frequency into your body, if you again experience a top down awakening or descent of grace, or if you experience more prana now pushing up your spine, or you experience more uh, openness within your field, then again these various stages will be gone through. So this is actually a cyclical process, and it can happen either once in your lifetime or it can happen many times in your lifetime. The more it happens, the more it changes you, the more you evolve. People's food choices are influenced by their physical build and how their mind functions. I've made three categories here. The first category is of people who are very slim built. They're energetic. Uh, they have a lot of mood shifts. They generally have cold hands and cold feet. They're very sensitive. They have sleeping issues. They have digestive issues. If you are somebody like this, then you need to eat food that is warm, food that increases the body heat, especially dairy products, cooked vegetables. I would always suggest cooked vegetables over raw salads, and the reason being that many farmers they use chemicals and pesticides on vegetables when they're farming them. So it is always advisable to clean the vegetables well and cook them. The body does not have to work extra hard to digest the food because already the spiritual evolution that is happening in your body is using away the body's energy. The body finds it easier to digest cooked food over raw vegetables. The things that this person should avoid is eating bitter foods, dried foods, and then cold foods because as such they are very susceptible to cold. The next type of people are those who have thick bones and strong joints. These people are very empathetic in nature. They form good relationships in their life. They value relationships. They have good immunity. But it is very easy for these people to slip into depression. They can eat unnecessarily, gain unnecessary weight because of certain psychological issues. They can have breathing problems. They may not feel very motivated in life. They need external motivation. If the person is of this category, then it is good that they eat spicy food. They eat foods that are acidic. For example, a cup of tea or coffee will do good to this person. Generally, when you read books on spiritual evolution, they tell you to stay away from spicy food or not to drink coffee or tea. But this again depends on the type of body you have. The third type are the muscular type, very aggressive, goal oriented. Their vision is up to attain certain success in life, and for them, relationships are secondary. They don't know how to maintain a balance between work and personal life. They are prone to acne. They can be more conflict oriented, very competitive. So this type of person should eat more light meals, more cold meals, sweet meals. They should include a lot of vegetables in their diet, and heavy spicy food should be avoided by this person. So no matter what category you belong to, the food you eat, you will see that majority it is cooked vegetables, grains, and mostly dairy products. These are the safe foods, along with herbs, supplements, which I spoke about earlier, eating right, exercising, depending on your how much your body will permit, how much of energy you have in your body. Do not force yourself to exercise when your body is refusing to cooperate with you. There may be phases in your life where you cannot exercise at all. It is okay. Relax, take rest. Your body needs rest during this phase. Expose your body to sunlight. Follow your intuition when you make your food choices. Your intuition and inner guidance can never go wrong when it comes to making food choices. Thank you.